Okay, we're sitting in the conference room at Jacob Lake Inn in the hotel. They recently, about 10 years ago, built a new hotel here. And as I'm sitting here, I'm looking out the window, and I just saw, along with Nanette and Randy, a novelty of a white-tailed squirrel. Nobody has seen a white-tailed squirrel unless they've been to Jacob Lake, Arizona. It's the only place in the world that the white-tailed squirrel lives. And they've been here for, I don't know, before I came when I was 12 years old. We had a lot of them. But they have a big white bushy tail and a black body. And they're beautiful. They're beautiful animals. And we just saw one a minute ago as we were walking down here to the conference room, which Nanette got some pictures of, and I got some pictures of it running across the parking lot. While Melinda was talking, and she was talking about her grandpa and her grandma, that's kind of where my story with Jacob Lake ended, is when John Rich was courting Effie Dean. And just before they got married and after they got married, John would come up here, who's Melinda's grandfather, and he would work here at the same time that I was here. And I would have been maybe I'd been about 14 the first time he came up. And of course everybody wanted to know who this new beau was, this boyfriend of Effie Dean's, because she had numerous pursuers. She had some pursuers. There was a Heaton kid from Kanab that used to come up here all the time when she was here and try to become her friend. And she had others. But somehow or other, John caught on. But Uncle Harold kind of wanted to know what kind of guy is this that she's interested in. So he let him come up here often kind of on a probation basis to observe this person that Effie Dean was interested in. And so John was under scrutiny here, even though he didn't realize that. He was here to court or to try to sell himself to the Bowman family. And I must have been about 14 years old when I started driving the old panel wagon, which isn't here, but it's about the same age as the old Dodge Power Wagon that's parked out here to plug up the runway where the road used to be. In those days, cars were not built to climb mountains very, very quickly. They didn't have the radiator cooling capacity that they have today. And so often, very often, at least more than one time a day, we would have cars that would be coming up from Fredonia and Kanab that would get hot and boil over, and they'd boil over all their water, and they'd have to stop or they would ruin their motors. So they would stop and hail down another car that was coming up and say, "We're out of water. Would you tell the people at Jacob Lake that we need water down here, and see if you could send someone down so we could get up over the mountain?" Well, I was in charge of the service station long before this service station was built out here. We were still a little two-pump station over here, and we had water bags that we would just strap around the headlights of this old panel wagon with water in them, And me, a 14-year-old kid, long before I could get a driver's license, I'd figured out how to drive that old panel wagon down there to take water to people. Never need to worry about cops or anything, because their cars wouldn't even make it up over the mountains. They didn't ever show up around here. But so I'd jump in the panel wagon and take water down to somebody. And this one time, I had a hard time reaching the pedals for some reason or other. I had to kind of stand up behind the wheel a little bit and look over the wheel because I was pretty short. Anyway, I thought, I'm going to see, I'm not going to go right back. I got these people water and fixed their radiator so they'll make it up to Jacob. But I'm going to drive through the forest a little bit, because this is a virgin forest, has very little undergrowth, and the trees are usually wide enough that you can drive between them. So I was off the side of the road, put water in these people's car, got them started and sent them back up, and I decided to take a little detour down through the forest back onto the road. And I came to 2 pine trees that I thought, I think I can go between those, And I'm going along, bouncing along in the pine needles and over and making pretty good progress. And I got to these 2 pine trees, and I couldn't go around either side, and I thought, I believe I can go right between them. Well, I couldn't. I mashed the fender in on both sides, the fender and the bumper on one side, clear into the tires, and I was stuck there. And I couldn't back up, and I couldn't go forward, and I thought, oh, Uncle Harold is going to kill me. He wasn't too hot on me driving without a license, but I kind of sneak out and do it every once in a while, and he was kind of okay with it. Well, what do I do to get this panel wagon unstuck and get back? And John was here visiting, either just after they were married or just before. And I really kind of liked John because he'd become my friend. And of course, he liked me because he knew Aunt Nine and Uncle Harold liked me, and he wanted to be a friend with the family. And so I must have caught a ride up. I guess I walked back over to the highway and caught a ride up with some people coming up, and got up here, and John was in the garage back here. And I didn't want to see Uncle Harold. I didn't want to have to tell anybody what I'd done. But I went and talked to John. And I said, I'm in terrible trouble, John. I need some help. And he says, let's see what we can do about it. So he got in a vehicle, it might have been the power wagon out here, I don't know. And we went back down, and he says, yeah, you fixed this thing. I was stuck right square between 2 trees, and it hadn't knocked the mirrors off yet because I hadn't got that far in. But the bumper was bent in on the right-hand side, and the fender was on the bent in, and the left fender was bent in. And we hooked onto the back of that panel wagon and pulled it out backwards out of the trees. And he had a what you call kind of a handyman jack that you could put between the wheel and the fender, and you could jack it out, and he'd jack the fender out so that the tire didn't rub the fender. And we were able to get that thing back up here and get it into the shop without Uncle Harold ever knowing, just seeing it. And I said, what are we going to do? And he said, let me work on it a little bit. And by golly, you know, he got a mallet and he got the jack and he got that thing all bent out, everything except the bumper. He couldn't get it quite straight. Now, it had some scratch marks on it. And if you wanted to really look at it, but it had a lot of scratch marks on it because it's been a panel wagon for 3 or 4 generations here. But John fixed that for me. And Uncle Harold never found out. He didn't ever notice what was wrong because John hammered it out and took care of it. And I thought, you're my hero. Like, I'm going to love you forevermore. You saved my life again. And so that was your grandpa that did that. And we became real buds. And I liked him a lot and he was always trying to win accolades to kind of improve his position with FED.